Laura lived peacefully in Blue Moon Valley, a quiet village nestled among rolling hills, with her beloved grandmother. Their days were simple and filled with warmth, but lately worry had crept into their small cottage. Her grandmother was growing weaker with each passing day, her health failing and their savings completely gone. One bright August morning, the old woman called Laura to her bedside. Her tired eyes filled with both sadness and determination. She handed Laura a letter addressed to her uncle, who ran a circus in the distant city. As Laura read the words on the page, her heart sank. Her grandmother was asking her uncle to give Laura a job, to take her away from the only home she had ever known. Laura didn't want to leave. Blue Moon Valley was where she belonged, where every tree and stream held precious memories. But her grandmother spoke gently yet firmly, reminding her that all children must eventually leave home, and that Laura was no longer a child, but a young woman who deserved a chance at a better future. With tears in her eyes and a heavy heart, Laura finally agreed. 2 days later, she packed a small bag and set off on the long journey to the city. For 7 days, Laura walked through mountains and valleys, across fields dotted with farms, and along winding forest paths. Each morning she drank cold water from clear rivers, and each night she lay beneath a blanket of stars, thinking of her grandmother and wondering what awaited her. Finally, she reached the city walls. Towering structures crowned with stone lions that seemed to guard the bustling world beyond. The streets were chaos compared to her quiet village, filled with rushing crowds and unfamiliar sounds. An old man gave her directions to the circus, and soon she stood before its entrance, clutching her grandmother's letter tightly. Her uncle greeted her warmly and immediately offered her a job, just as her grandmother had requested. But when he led her behind the circus tents to rows of large cages housing exotic animals, Laura's heart sank a little. Her job would be to wash and feed the monkeys, lions, elephants, tigers, and horses. It wasn't glamorous work, but Laura threw herself into it with determination. Every week she wrote letters home, always saying she was happy, though in truth she felt lonely and out of place. Her only real companion was Cho-Cho, a gentle panda with sad brown eyes who seemed to understand her homesickness. 4 months passed in this routine until one day her uncle announced that the king himself would visit the circus. Everything had to be perfect, every animal spotless. Laura worked harder than ever to prepare. Then, on the morning of the royal visit, disaster struck. Nina Winchester, who performed in the horse act with the talented horseman William Grant, suddenly quit and left without warning. Laura's uncle panicked, desperately trying to find a solution. His eyes fell on Laura, and in that moment he made a bold decision. Laura would take Nina's place in that very evening's performance. William Grant laughed at the absurd idea. How could Laura possibly learn Nina's complex routine in just a few hours? But there was no alternative, and so Laura found herself squeezed into Nina's costume, her hands shaking as she prepared for her debut. That evening, as the king settled into his seat wearing magnificent gold robes, Laura performed alongside William with a grace that surprised everyone, including herself. When the show ended, the king praised the new girl, and Laura's uncle beamed with pride. From that day forward, Laura no longer cleaned cages. She became William's partner in the ring, training and performing with him daily. But something else began to happen too, as they spent time together. Walking through the beautiful park beside the king's palace and talking late into the evening, Laura felt herself falling in love with William. He was kind, talented, and made her laugh. One October afternoon, as golden leaves swirled around them, William took her hand and asked her to be his wife. Laura's joy turned to conflict in an instant. She loved William deeply, but she couldn't imagine spending her life in the noisy, crowded city. Her heart belonged to Blue Moon Valley, to the quiet streams and gentle hills of her childhood. She looked into William's eyes and explained her feelings honestly, asking if he could understand her need to return home. William's face grew serious. The city was his home. The circus was his life. He needed time to think about such a big decision. They agreed to talk again the next day. That night was the longest of Laura's life. She couldn't sleep, couldn't stop her mind from spinning with worry. She went to visit Cho-Cho, pouring out her fears to the sympathetic panda. What would William decide? Was she asking too much? Could love survive if they wanted such different lives? Cho-Cho gazed at her with his deep, understanding eyes, offering silent comfort as dawn slowly broke over the city. Early the next morning, William found Laura at Cho-Cho's cage. He and Laura would marry, but they would also be leaving the circus. He had decided to start a new life as a fisherman in Blue Moon Valley to make Laura's home his own. Laura could hardly believe what she was hearing. Tears of happiness streamed down her face as she realized that William had chosen her, chosen them, over everything familiar and comfortable in his life. A week later, Laura and William prepared to leave the city. The entire circus gathered to wish them well, and the celebration was bittersweet. Just as they were about to depart, 4 men appeared carrying a large wooden crate. Laura's uncle smiled mysteriously and urged her to open it. As Laura lifted the lid, she gasped in delightful surprise. Inside was Cho-Cho, her dear friend, her uncle's wedding gift to her. Overcome with emotion, Laura embraced her uncle, thanking him through her tears. As the cart pulled away from the circus, carrying Laura, William, and Cho-Cho toward the mountains and the valley beyond, Laura looked back one last time at the city. Then she turned her face forward, toward home, toward the future she had dared to dream of, her heart finally at peace.